Hi, and welcome back to Thone's Hebrew Nibbles number 33. The King of Righteousness, part 3 of 4. And we're going to be talking about his characteristics today. Again, this is all from Hebrews 7, 1 through 10. And if you want to read that before we begin, pause it and let it go. His genealogy. Why is this in the Bible? His difference from other high priests is the reason it's in the Bible. Communications is what the Scripture says. Application to me. The Levitical priesthood was inherited by being a son, grandson, etc. of Aaron, that first high priest. This continued until the death of that high priest. And then the next one comes, and then the next one comes. Now, although we recognize that towards the end, this was intervened by Rome, who appointed and fired the high priest at will. So it wasn't quite so simple during that time, but up to that time, it was pretty much the way it was supposed to be, as God dictated. We do not have any such record of Melchizedek. We do not even know his parents' names. This was important because he, like Jesus, was king and high priest. He came from a time when only God justified by faith. Long before the law, he represented that justification we now know comes from Jesus and his sacrifice for us. So let's talk just a little bit about the history of this. Melchizedek was there in his office at the time that Abraham heard that Sodom and Gomorrah and the other small towns had been raided by enemy and had taken everybody away along with all their stuff. So Abraham got together a small army of his servants and went after and defeated that enemy and brought all those people back, including his nephew Lot, which is the really reason he was associated with all those people. That happened before Abraham had a single child. Not Ishmael, not Isaac, no, nothing. So there was all that time, the rest of Abraham's life, then all of Isaac's life, all of Jacob's life, all of Joseph's life, and then 400 years in Egypt, and then the escape led by Moses from Egypt, and then Moses goes up on the mountain and God tells him about appointing Aaron as a high priest. You know, it's 500 or 600 years before any of those things happened. So this tells us, first of all, that salvation was there even long before the Jews understood anything about their role in the whole matter. Long before the law. He represented that justification that we know calls from Jesus. That is, Melchizedek was a saved man. He was justified before God. And so that immediately takes you away from Judaism as the only way, because there's no real blood connection at all between the Hebrew people Melchizedek. He was a king in the promised land long before the Jews owned 1 square inch of the promised land. So it isn't a Hebrew thing. The Hebrews were supposed to pass on this message to others about the salvation of God and what it was that God wanted us to be doing. But really, salvation was long before that. God says, follow my son Jesus. And my personal response is, Lord, thank you for giving us this pre-law example of life after Jesus' first coming. Because the other people didn't know about this story they didn't know the salvation of Jesus, the absolute salvation forever. All they knew of was the salvation that the Levitical priesthood could give them, which was good basically until another year came, and then they had to bring a sacrifice and do the whole thing over again. So here's the example of a man that was saved long before there was any law to obey, much less disobey. Okay. That's enough, I guess. We'll talk to you next time.